you. I'm going to go ahead and start. I'm going to get you all back on schedule is what we're going to do here. Let me first begin by thanking the West Virginia Business and Industry Council and the Eastern Panhandle Business Association for sponsoring the forum, putting it together, to Al and the Charlestown Hollywood facility here for hosting it. These sorts of meetings are invaluable for me as a legislator because it's where we learn what you think will make us effective at what we're trying to do. And what we're trying to do is build an economy in West Virginia that will attract business, create jobs, raise the standard of living for our citizens. I want to thank Bill Cole for allowing me to play the role that I played in the proceedings in the last legislative session in the West Virginia Senate. President Cole's philosophy on the subject of legal reform, regulatory reform, was simply this. His instructions to me were, Charlie, let's identify areas where West Virginia is out of the mainstream. Let's find areas where we're one of only a handful of states that are doing things one way, that are interfering with the opportunities we might otherwise have for business growth or industrial growth, and that's what we did. And I'm going to spare you all the nuances of all the changes in the law relating to civil justice and legal reform, but tell you that philosophically, that's what we tried to do. And I think we made a good first start. I think we moved the needle a little bit, moving West Virginia to the mainstream so that we can be more competitive with not only our surrounding states, but with all states, and make the best use of the assets that we have in this state for growth and development. There's more to do. We had a very busy session, as Speaker Armstead and President Cole both mentioned. I think we all approached it with a sense of urgency, and at least that was. And I have to say that in the Judiciary Committee, you know, we had an evenly divided committee on party lines that acted in a bipartisan and nonpartisan fashion. We had people rolling their sleeves up and working together in both parties across the aisle, and a lot of that comes from the leadership provided by President Cole and Speaker Armstead for the institutions, and we can't say enough about that. I hope it continues through the next legislative session. I'm going to stop there because this is a process for us to learn. We definitely want to hear from Annette, who has an issue that she wants to speak to the legislators and others about, and we're going to hear from Craig. I want to introduce Craig. You know, from the time I went to the House of Delegates in the early 90s until now, when the Eastern Panhandle delegation gathers, it's a substantially larger crowd of people, much larger. Twice as many legislators representing this panhandle as did when I began a legislative career. I want everybody in this room from the Eastern Panhandle to know and understand that the person right now that is the backbone of that entire delegation, the sinew and backbone, and does more to hold our delegation together, is my senior senator from the 15th District. I'm pleased to introduce Craig Blair.
You have to excuse me for a minute while I get my money out and pay him for saying all that good things to me. That's the way it worked down Charleston, I think. All right. Hey, Chris and Jim, thank you. Great turnout. Everybody that's here. Thank you for being here and listening to what's going on. I'll be a little bit provocative. But the fact of the matter is that, Mr. President, I will be begging for a few things while I'm up here. Okay? I want you to know that. I'm tasked with talking about prevailing wage and according to some of the paperwork, the regulatory reform. And before I get on to prevailing wage, I want to talk about regulatory reform. Mr. President, I would appreciate if it was assigned to my committee that where we got ready and we took all the fines and fees that are collected by these government agencies and we take it and put it back into general revenue and then let them come before the legislature to get that money back. That in itself will solve more problems with the DEP and all the rest of them out here of using it to build kingdoms. Kingdoms, and anybody that's in Charleston knows what I'm talking about. That is one of the first things that we need to be able to get and address and coming up. The next thing is there's a Supreme Court ruling, and we're talking about our boards and committees of the different, like the barbers and cosmetologists. We got them for everything that's out there. There's a Supreme Court ruling that says there needs to be more oversight. In West Virginia, we actually do have a little bit more oversight than what most states do because they bring the rules back to the legislature and we vote on it. But what actually needs to be done as well is we need to have a majority of citizen members on these boards. That way they get away from being associations, which so many of them have, to becoming looking out for the citizens of West Virginia. That would solve that. Unfair trade practice. Gentlemen, anybody that came here from outside the Eastern Panhandle, I want you to pay attention to the gasoline prices while we're here. In fact, I beg you to fill up while you're here. All right? The rest of them saying, the fact of the matter is it's out of control. There's 40 and 50 cents price difference, sometimes within the state. Unfair trade practice needs to be addressed, and I beg for that to be in my committee, Mr. President. I'm making you regret ever saying that here a while ago. Homestead exemption is another one that I begged for it to be in the committee, and we've had problems with that throughout the years. Since 2002, when I first went into office, Delegate Duke, Delegate Overton, we've all worked on this and never gotten anywhere with it. Fact of the matter is, here we think we know how to do it. It's a constitutional amendment, and what it is that you have to have a mandatory appraisal somewhere every 3 years between 62 and 65. What you do is freeze it at that point in time. So if you're a senior and you're paying $300 or $3,000, depending on whatever your property value is, it stays that rate until you either pass or it's sold. That solves the whole inflationary problem and what's going on, keeps the southern counties whole where property values are worth $20,000 and they see a much better benefit from that. But what more than anything keeps our seniors in their homes. Expanding the municipal home rule, that comes through the committee. I'm an ex officio member of the Home Rule Committee. I think it's great. Anything we can do that makes it so that we can put more power back to the local level, the better. There's some flies in the ointment in that. I'm still learning with it, but we're getting there. I think I've touched on all the things that I wanted to beg for. Now let's talk about prevailing wage. I was the lone sponsor of that. I begged for it to be in my committee, and thankfully they put it in my committee. We went through that process, and you know what has taken place is that we thought we had a pretty good piece of legislation. By the way, I wanted to repeal it. I wanted it gone. Let the free market take care of it. Yeah. But it's not just about what I want. You have to work together as a team. Sometimes you compromise. And you know, the same thing as repealing it is having a true prevailing wage. And that's what we expected from this legislation. But it's going to show how things are going through the process with workforce, even though we took it from the Department of Labor and moved it over to workforce, and we thought we had some redundancy built into it by putting WVU and Marshall in along with it to be able to help calculate it. What do we end up with? More government bureaucracy of the same old, same old. We've got the same type of survey as what there was before. And by the way, the Bureau of Labor Statistics numbers is a survey. That is done by workforce. But yet they're saying that it's not good enough for this. Now I understand that you might need to have a multiplier on it to be able to cover some of the fringes. But the fact of the matter is that they diverted away from the legislation, the will of the legislature, and did exactly what they want to do. It goes to show that you may have changed what is taking place in the legislature or who's running it, but until we get somebody in the executive branch who goes out there and cleans house and makes it so that the executive branch operates underneath the will of the legislature and the intent of what they were doing, nothing's going to change. Sound like I'm running for governor. Now, I'm almost done here. I want to give you one example. The BLS for a roofer is $14.73 an hour. The West Virginia prevailing wage was $26.87. That's almost double, with a fringe of $10.54 on that. The example is one after another, and it's a fleecing of the taxpayers' dollars. That's all there was to it. I could go on and on. I know that we're short, but I think I've touched on just about everything and where we were at, except for one thing. Mr. President, I beg for one more to come back to my committee. And that is, if they do not get their act together in workforce and give us a real, true prevailing wage that we expected from the legislature, send it back, and I would be honored to run a bill that would repeal the prevailing wage and let the market conditions take care of it. We showed our willingness to be able to do that, to compromise and work together, and they've shown us that it appears to be an impossible situation. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I hope I helped you. If you've got questions, hit me with them.
Wow, that's pretty difficult to follow, Senator Blair. I appreciate all of that, and we'll keep an eye out on that, Senator Cole. I'm sure he'll get his weight on that one. My name is Annette Gavin. I'm the CEO for the Jefferson County CBB, Convention and Visitors Bureau. My job is to promote tourism, and my job is to have partners like Hollywood Casino, and the Bavarian Inn, the Blue Marie Distillery, River Riders. They're our partners. Tourism, we all know what that's about. 2012 numbers, almost $1 billion was spent by visitors in our county, Jefferson County alone, in 2012. $1 billion. We all know what that meant. We gave it back to you, Senator Cole, over and over again, I'm sure. So I just want to bring up, we all know about the brunch bill. I'm going to call it the better brunch bill, because I want us to take a look at this brunch bill one more time and make it not about if we want to get open early on Sunday, we have to close late or close earlier on Saturday. I want to protect our friends in gaming. I want to protect our assets and our friends at the Bavarian Inn. And I want to offer this out to you. I want to say, imagine that you're a visitor. You're coming to the area, you spend the night in one of the fine hotels we have in the county, in this state. The next morning you wake up, simple thing, let's have a leisurely brunch. Let's go down and have a brunch. Spend the morning, get out amongst the people in the town, see all the shops, do all the great stuff in the area. You're greeted by a great host at the Bavarian Inn. You walk in, the waitress smiling, ask you what you like, and you say, you know what, it's special. We'd like to have a mimosa. My husband wants a Bloody Mary. It's 10:30, and she says, I'm sorry, we can't serve until 1. They're like, oh, that's terrible, that's awful, this beautiful brunch, this looks great, we were so excited. They get up, they politely say, we'll check out a couple other places. They pack up their bags, they leave the hotel, and they leave our state. They go next door, and they're able to get that mimosa and that Bloody Mary. What else do? They're able to go there, spend, shop, increase that revenue. I'm going to give you just a few facts. These are facts from our friends in tourism. The Bavarian Inn says, if I'm able to serve those extra 3 hours, I get about $100,000 more a year, minimum, conservative. And also what it does, I know for a fact, they leave my doors and go down into Shepherdstown and keep shopping. They enjoy that. It's the visitor experience I'm talking about. Down at the Greenbrier, you can imagine these numbers. The Greenbrier is saying, I know what our Saturday numbers are from 10 to 1. I'm going to imagine that Sunday won't be quite as good, but Saturday alone, 10 to 1, wine, beer, liquor, about $500,000. You take that number, you equate it to Sunday. They know their sales are up this year. They say, we could be looking at $500,000 in a Sunday that we're missing out on. These are two of our partners. Our Blue Marie Plantation, we all know, they're saying, please let us open up on Sundays with all the other distilleries. We're talking about a minimum, a conservative $200,000 a year, that would give me. Saturdays are our best days. Our friends in the winery business right across the line in Virginia are touting that Sunday, we're looking at sales about 80% of what we did on Saturday. Again, you do those numbers. Last, I just want to say all the distilleries, gaming, all of the hospitality industry, everybody in tourism is saying, I don't get it. It's just a few hours and it would make the visitor experience so much better. The brunch bill, a better brunch bill, can speak directly to just opening early on Sundays. That's it. Let's make it a clean brunch bill. This isn't just about Jefferson County and the Eastern Panhandle, folks. Every one of you representing across the state are going to hear it from all the distilleries, all the restaurants. It's about hospitality, and we all know tourism, it's the best return. Senator, I want to thank you. It passed the Senate last year. We need to get this through the finish line. And I thank you. I thank every one of you.
Thank you.